Let's testify tonight. Oh God, you've done so much for me. I'm grateful and overwhelmed here at your feet. And I could stay here forever, Lord. But you call me to something more. And I hear you say that you have a plan to use every broken woman and man to display just how good you are. We are your living pieces of art. What good does it do to hide away when all of my scars are a picture of grace? All right. So I will testify of the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. You, Lord. For my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, do you believe it? Has he done it for anyone else? I said, has he done it for anyone else? Cause the God that I serve, he's always at work. Has he done it for anyone else? So come on and testify of the power of God. Come on and tell the world of the hope we have found. For our body was broken, our hearts were made whole, and that's too good to keep to yourself. Come on and testify of the power of God. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify your voice. This is my. So I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify. Come on, take it up. Jesus, my champion, the victor of grace, the only one worthy of all of my praise. Yeah. So come on and testify. Oh, somebody lift him high. Come on, testify of the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. Oh, for my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Sing it. Oh, my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, let's do that right now. Murfreesboro.
And good evening. I am sorry, yes, I am late. So if you normally join me and you're not here, I guess you won't see this. So I guess, yeah, sorry, but you won't know that I'm sorry because you're not here. If in fact you come after the fact because you say, hey, crap, I guess he did a live stream. So it's my fault. I take all responsibility. I was just running late. I had some stuff to do here in the house, excuse me, and it took a little longer than I had hoped. And so, but I am here now. Hopefully, you guys will see this. Right now, it looks like there's a couple of you here watching, but I don't, nobody in the chat yet. So I will say hi as they come in. So today we are going to be covering Leviticus chapter 22. Now, in chapter 21, what we covered last week, we had the rules for priests, basically. Now we're going to kind of go into some things about sacrifices, not the procedure as much like what we had earlier on, but more about like what's not acceptable when it comes to sacrifices. And while, yes, as a Christian, we don't do the sacrificial system anymore. So even though Jews should, but don't for reasons, I guess. But but as a Christian, no, you're not bound to the sacrificial system. However, that doesn't mean we can't learn from it. And I think that that's kind of important. And it's, in some ways, it's to like keep a definite reverence for God, even though, obviously, I can be snarky and sarcastic and stuff. But when it comes to God, I take that very seriously. Theology, I think, is a extremely important topic, and one that unfortunately, I don't want to be mean, but most people aren't just ignorant of; they are theologically retarded, and I mean that in the literal sense. I'm not trying to say the R word, so to speak, as a derogative. And what I mean by that is that they are, they basically, you hear a story from a pastor, a priest, or even an online personality, and you just take that and you run with that and you go, okay, so that's what's in the Bible and all that good stuff, without actually reading it, without actually studying it, without actually diving deep into it, which is, you do not have to be a theologian with a PhD in ancient languages to be able to do a deep dive on the Bible. Yes, the more the more deep you can take it. But as far as just a serious Bible study, a website like Bible Gateway, which is completely free, has every translation, and for a small monthly fee, you can actually have access to the Greek and Hebrew as well. And it'll tell you every Greek and Hebrew word that was translated and what the original word means. And so, what's interesting is that sometimes, and we've done this a few times during the study, sometimes you'll find that things, don't mean exactly what you thought they meant. You know, either because of translation issues or just because people people just don't bother to dig. When you have a question about something, and and that's really the important thing is that if your pastor, your priest, your rabbi, if your favorite online commentator says something that you're like, wow, that's like way contrary to what I'm doing. I need to check myself. I might need to change my life, or whatever, or just something that even if it's not that major, if it's something that could affect you, you should verify it before you act upon it. If you're not verifying this kind of stuff, then basically you end up spiritually blind, and you can be very, very easily misled into various false doctrines and false teachings that are extremely dangerous and destructive. And so, the only way to really avoid that kind of thing is to study, to pray, and to obey. That's the basic things you do as a Christian. And if you don't, if you just say, well, I'm good because I listen to Mike Winger, or I'm good because I listen to Joel Osteen, or I'm good because I listen to Michael J. Crawford, the greatest commentator on the internet. It doesn't matter because in any of those cases, you're not reading the source material, and the source material is ultimately what's important, the Bible itself. And That's why I highly recommend, and nobody has an excuse, because yes, a good Bible is expensive, but something like Bible Gateway Online is 100% free to access pretty much every translation that there is. So, Josiah, the first in the chat, good to see you, buddy. Says someone with a bowling ball versus someone go kart. Well, that's a weird matchup. I would have to go to the go kart because bowling ball guy is very limited as to what he can do. I mean, he can throw the ball once, but unless he scores a fatality on his one shot, now he's weaponless, and the go kart guy is very fast and can zoom around and run the guy down. How scared would you be to play a game with the Jigsaw Killer? I don't know about scared as much as, well, I mean, okay, put it this way. Am I afraid of death? Not at all. And so I would, when, Jigsaw said, I'd like to play a game, or I'd like to play a game. If Jigsaw said that, I'd be like, yeah, no thanks. And then if he said, oh, well, there's poison in the room and you're going to collapse in 30 seconds if you don't find the key, which is hidden inside of somebody's, guts or something, I'd be like, yeah, okay, well, I guess the poison's going to get me. And, some of his methods of killing people looks rather gruesome and painful, and I wouldn't like the gruesome and painful part. But as far as the being terrified of the idea of dying, not at all. And look, this is coming from somebody who I have firsthand experience of what it's like to feel like you could die. I mean, like even as we speak, I'm still waiting to get the MRA so that I can find out what's going on with the occlusion on this side of my neck and the aneurysm on this side of my neck. And of course, a significant occlusion or aneurysm, either one of those, could kill me at any second. Like I could just drop dead in the middle of this live stream, or it might never affect me. And so until, we get all the procedures done, don't know. But while I don't want to die, obviously, I also am not terrified of it. I'm more concerned about how painful the transition is going to be. Let's see. Samurai versus a sword duelist. Well, a samurai is a sword duelist. And I would just depend on how, I mean, because to be a samurai, you have a very specific skill level with a katana and all that. As far as a duelist, depending on where they are, the level could be quite below a samurai, or it could be on par with a samurai. And then you got to take into account what kind of swords are they using, because while I know that in movies katanas are these indestructible super weapons, while katanas are extremely well made swords, they are not indestructible super weapons. Like if you have a katana against, say, a rapier, yeah, the katana will probably slice right through it. But if you have a katana versus, say, a claymore, then the claymore would shatter the katana on its way to sever the samurai's head. So it really will depend on the skill level of the two involved and the weapons that they fight. So there's no way to just say sword duelist versus samurai who wins. Trustin in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you are well. And and I was going to tell you, Trustin. So since you're here, the church has basically said, okay, so small groups are going to be on hold until January 7th. So you got 3 weeks off for the holidays. And so that's pretty much across the board for all small groups. So I wanted to make sure to let you know about that. Let me know in the chat that you got that, so I don't feel guilty if you show up in the morning. All right. So anyway, so let's get right over to good old Leviticus, because isn't Leviticus awesome? And so we'll switch screens. And look, there's me. So yeah, why not? This is what we're after. All right. So Like I said, Leviticus 22 is basically we're going to get into some procedural stuff. But again, remember there is nuggets of wisdom to be taken from everything in every book of the Bible, even the stuff that was sometimes think doesn't really have anything for us, which I think is kind of interesting when you look at the some of the stuff that we've read in Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus. All of them have had surprising little nuggets of wisdom. All right, so starting at verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons to treat with respect the sacred offerings the Israelites consecrate to me, so they will not profane my holy name. I am the Lord. Say to them, for the generations to come." Remember, every time he says for the generations to come, he's basically making it clear this is an ongoing commandment. This is not like a one time deal. For generations to come, if any of your descendants, so, any of Aaron's descendants, which is the entire priesthood of all of Israel for all time. So if any of your descendants is ceremonially unclean and yet comes near the sacred offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Lord, that person must be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. So if you are ceremonially unclean, so let's say you come in contact with a dead body or something like that, and then you decide to, basically go near the sacred offerings, that's a serious no-no. And when it says cut off, that's basically a death sentence. It means you're kicked out of the encampment and you're off living in the barren desert on your own. So you don't want to be in that situation. And yeah, I see that you got that, Tristan. Thank you. Anyway, so the let's see, if a descendant of Aaron has a defiling skin disease, remember we talked about the skin diseases earlier, or a bodily discharge, we also talked about that. Uh, he may not eat of the sacred offerings until he is cleansed. He will also be unclean if he touches something defiled by a corpse or by anyone who has an emission of semen, or if he touches any crawling thing that makes him unclean, or any person who makes him unclean, whatever the uncleanliness may be. The one who touches any such thing will be unclean until evening. He must not eat any of the sacred offerings until he has bathed himself in water. When the sun goes down, he will be clean, and after that he may eat of the sacred offerings, for they are his food. He must not eat anything found dead or torn by wild animals, and so become unclean through it. I am the Lord. So again, if something is unclean, you don't, and okay, so I say, like, what can we pick up in modern context? Because obviously we're not doing sacrifices anymore. You don't go to God with an unclean spirit, right? You don't go to God, and in fact, like one thing that Corey likes to talk about at church is, you should never you don't take communion under false pretense. You don't take communion if you have not asked God to forgive your sins. Particularly, you should be asking Him to forgive any sins you may be unaware of. I mean, you should already be asking him for forgiveness for the sins you are aware of. So if you do something that is a sin, you should be already asking God for forgiveness. But if you did something by accident that you didn't realize, you should be asking for a blanket forgiveness for that. To say, hey, Lord, if there's something I missed, please forgive me. So you should not be approaching the Lord in an unclean status. And I think that that's something that we should be thinking about. The priests are to perform my service in such a way as they do not become guilty and die for treating it with contempt. I am the Lord who makes them holy. No one outside the priest's family may eat the sacred offering, nor may the guest of a priest or his hired worker eat it. But if a priest buys a slave with money, or if the slave, and this is another one of those things, there's regulations about slavery, therefore the Bible endorses slavery. Whatever. If a priest buys a slave with money, or if slaves are born in his household, they may eat his food. So remember, and this is actually goes back to something we talked about when we talked about the slave regulations in Exodus, is that slaves are, when we're talking about the godly version, if you will, of following slave regulations. Slaves are to be treated as a member of your household. And of course, you also have to remember that most slavery, not all, but most slavery, as far as from the Israelites' perspective, was in fact voluntary. So it was not, the kind of slavery that we have in the United States a couple hundred years ago. That's very, very different. All right, back to it. Um, but what I was saying there is that because slaves are a member of the family to the point where even though God is saying if you're even the slightest bit unclean, you can't touch this food, but your slaves can eat it. And he makes that clear. He doesn't want people to think that, oh, because they're slaves, they're somehow unclean. They're not less of a person just because they are a slave. Anyone who eats a sacred offering by mistake must make restitution to that priest for the offering and add a fifth to the value of it. So basically, kind of, we talked. So there's a penalty of the value of 1/5 of whatever you mistakenly eat. The priest must not desecrate the sacred offerings the Israelites present to the Lord by allowing them to eat the sacred offerings and to bring upon the guilt requiring payment. I am the Lord who makes them holy. All right. Unacceptable sacrifices. Yes, there are in fact sacrifices that are not okay. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites and say to them, if any of you, whether an Israelite or a foreigner living in Israel," so this is a blanket statement for everybody, "presents a gift for a burnt offering to the Lord, either to fulfill a vow or as a free will offering, you must present a male without defect from the cattle, sheep, or goats in order for it to be accepted on your behalf. Do not bring anything with defect because it will not be accepted on your behalf." And again, this is not to say that a goat that has some kind of defect can't be used for milk or for food. It's the idea that what you're going to give to God must be flawless. And as far as a male versus a female, generally speaking, in livestock, there's an argument to be made, and I think that it's an interesting one, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But the argument that I've heard is that the reason that's a male animal is because males are more valuable than females. Because if you think about it, what do you do with your livestock? You need a lot of little livestock, and females can only have one or two babies at a time, while males can have tons of them, right? But that actually makes the males less valuable. And in fact, what you would typically do if you have a ranch is most like we had sheep, right? And when the lambs were born, the males were basically raised until they were old enough to basically be of mature size, and then you slaughter them and eat them. Whereas the females you keep. So the females are actually more valuable from a rancher's perspective, because if you have a single male can keep an entire flock of females pregnant. That's just biology, right? But it's always best to have a male that is not genetically related to those females, which also means that what you generally would do is you would have you're talking about cows and bulls, exact same thing. You would have 50 cows and one bull, and that would be a very happy bull because look at his job, right? However, and so when those cows have calves, if those calves are male, they are immediately raised for meat. If they are female, they are raised for milk and birthing more cows. So so yeah, females are generally more valuable as far as livestock is concerned. My thought on the why a male animal, for the most part, is it's a foreshadowing of Christ Himself. Christ obviously being a biological male and a person without defect. The first human being that with a name in the Bible is Adam, who was a male and was without defect. So I think that it's just symbolic of that. I don't think that it has anything to do with the value of the animal, obviously, because if it did, then it's backwards. All right, so where was I? Must present a male. Do not bring. Okay, do not bring anything with a defect, because it will not be accepted on your behalf. When anyone brings from the herd or flock or fellowship offering to the Lord, or special vow or free will offering, it must be without defect or blemish to be acceptable. Do not offer to the Lord the blind, the injured, or the maimed, or anything with warts or festering or running sores. Do not place any of these on the altar as a food offering presented to the Lord. You may, however, present as a free will offering an ox or sheep that is deformed or stunted, but it will not be accepted as fulfillment of a vow. So that's actually really interesting. So if you look at the way that it's talking about, so obviously, if the point of your offering is to alleviate yourself of sin in some way or to gain fellowship with God. That's what these offerings are. It must be without defect in order to be acceptable. However, a free will offering is simply an offering of thanks that and so it's basically you're giving it to the priest to say, hey, here you go, buddy, because, we love you. And in that particular case, well, you could say, well, hey, we got this three-legged goat here, and he'd make some good meat, but, we can't use him, so we're going to give him as a free will offering so that the priests have a little extra meat, and so it's something like that. All right. You must not offer to the Lord an animal whose testicles are bruised, crushed, torn, or cut. So a castrated animal is not a good sacrifice. And by the way, some people are like, "Oh, that's kind of weird stuff, right?" But think about it. The testicles are symbolically the very core of male reproduction. And what is the first commandment is to reproduce. And so anything with damaged testicles cannot reproduce. And so its value has dropped to zero. As far as from a livestock perspective. And as far as a human is concerned, while your value hasn't dropped to zero, it means that you cannot fulfill the first commandment. Let's see. You must not offer the Lord an animal, or I already read that. You must not do this in your own land, and you must not accept such animals from the hand of a foreigner and offer them as food of your God. So they will not be accepted on your behalf because they're deformed and have defects. So and so remember, deformed here, because a lot of people think when they think deformed, they think somebody with birth defects or something. But here they're talking about someone whose an animal whose testicles are bruised, crushed, torn, or cut. Boy, not fun to just say over and over testicles that are bruised, crushed, torn, or cut. But the that and it's describing that as being deformed. So deformed could just mean injured in a permanent fashion. So it doesn't necessarily just mean someone with some kind of genetic condition. There are some people that try to argue that God hates the genetically less than perfect. That's clearly not the case. But he does care about you not having your testicles crushed, apparently, which that's a good thing. The Lord said to Moses, when a calf or lamb or goat is born, it is to remain with its mother for 7 days. From the eighth day on, it will be acceptable as a food offering presented to the Lord. Do not slaughter a cow or sheep and its young on the same day. So right there, it's saying basically, you know, it's generally considered a delicacy to eat young meat. That's why veal is, and I'm not gonna lie, veal is really good. If you've ever had real veal, it is really good. But veal is a very young calf, right? And so there's just simply a regulation here that until the animal is 8 days old, you can't do that. Why? It's another symbolic gesture. It's reminding them of, for one thing, when is circumcision? On the eighth day. And we talk about how, the 7 day week of creation and all this. So it's a lot of this stuff that the Jews have to do is as a reminder of their history. And that's one of the reasons the Jews have such a wonderful grasp of their history, because everything they do is a reminder of some specific historical event. If you've ever, and if you don't have any Jewish friends, well, make some. But if you've ever been with a Jew on during Hanukkah, when they light the candles, there's very specific meaning to all that, and they talk about it as they do it, and they talk about the whole meaning of Hanukkah. Like with Christmas, half of the people, even Christians, just think, hey, it's a great day to, not have to go to work and give people presents. And that's all fun and dandy. And hey, let's watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and here comes Santa Claus. But obviously, Christmas, while it does have, as far as certain traditions of Christmas, like the tree and stuff, may have their pagan roots. But Christmas is about the celebration of the birth of Christ. Nobody, and one of the problem people, yeah, nobody claims, at least not on an official capacity, the churches don't claim that Jesus was born on December 25th. It's just the day we do it because we don't know the day Jesus was born. He was actually probably born in the springtime, like in April, which is awesome because that's when I was born, and it just makes sense. All right. When you sacrifice a thank offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on your behalf. It must be eaten that same day. Leave none till morning. I am the Lord. So again, this is one of those things that if they give you, by the way, this is something kind of interesting. So if somebody gives you a consumable item, say, like you're having a party, someone brings you some cheese or somebody brings you a bottle of wine or whatever. Really, if you're looking at it as, this is a thank you offering that person is giving you, it really is. It's just, it's not obviously the formalized offerings that we're making at the temple, but that is exactly what that is. Is that when you invite somebody over for a party and they bring you something, a consumable item like that, just it's as a thank you. That's where that comes from. It right here. However, what you should do is somebody brings you a bottle of wine at a party, you should immediately open up that bottle of wine. Why? You want to show the person the appreciation you have for that gift, and thus consume it immediately, and share it with the partygoers. Now, I understand, like they might give you a really nice bottle of scotch or something. You're like, ooh, this is too. I'm not opening this up for the party, so you squirrel it away. That's certainly understandable, but it's if you're trying to be as biblical as you possibly can, probably not a good idea. All right, so keep my commands and follow them. I am the Lord. This is like the fourth or fifth time that there's a part of Leviticus where he just says, keep my commands. And why does he say this? Because it's important, right? That the Jews follow all of these rules and regulations. I know that some of them seem silly by today's standards. Some of them simply don't apply in the modern world, right? And some, as we can see, like when we talk about like kosherite law and stuff like that, the Jews have just overcomplicated things, right? So, yes, you're supposed to bleed out the animal before before you can eat the animal. You don't eat the blood. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through this whole ritualistic way of doing it that kosher food follows. And I understand Jews might argue with me on that, and that's fine. But I'm not Jewish, so it doesn't really bother me one way or the other how you do it. But I don't, when I was a kid and I lived on a ranch, when it was time to eat chicken, I was the chicken killer, right? So I actually, my mom would say we're having chicken for dinner. I would go out, grab the axe, grab a chicken, chop the head off. Once it stopped running around, then you tie it up by its feet so it would bleed out of the neck. You split it open, you get all the guts out, all that stuff, right? It's a messy process, but you don't leave the blood in the body. You don't. You purposely hang it upside down so that all the blood drains out. Now, what we didn't do, because we're not Jewish, we didn't like collect the blood and bury it or anything like that. We just had a, where you slaughtered it, it would just spill onto the ground, and wild animals would probably come lick it up or whatever in the middle of the night. Anyway, do not profane my holy name, for I must be acknowledged as holy by the Israelites. I am the Lord who made you holy, and who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. And again, another reminder to the Jews, that they were brought out of Egypt. It's funny because if you listen to Jewish prayers and songs and stuff, you will hear a lot about the fact that God brought them out of Egypt. And sometimes you might say, "Okay, okay, we get it. He brought you out of Egypt, right?" But there's a reason for that. God Himself constantly was reminding them that, "Hey, you know what I did? You know, 10 plagues. You know, pretty bad ones. Passover, ring a bell." And you went in the desert, manna from heaven, remember that? Pillar of fire, remember that? Red Sea. And so all that is really, really important, and something that we should not, well, as a Jew in particular, you should not forget. As a Gentile, it's an interesting factor of history because this is still a part of our history, even though we don't necessarily have to follow those regulations in the same way the Jews do. We have to follow. I mean, if we can see a moral aspect of the law, we need to follow it. But if the law has to do with ceremonially cleaning a person, that is no longer a thing. Well, it is a thing for Jews, but it's not a thing for Gentiles. Put it that way. All right. So anyway, I'm going to quickly go through some of the chat, and then I will wrap things up because I want to eat dinner. All right. So Steve Burns versus Gilligan. I'm having a brain cramp. I don't remember who Steve Burns is. I recognize that name, but I'm not sure who that is. Let's see. Street Preacher says stupid notification. Salty is going on Christmas vacation. Yeah, as far as our small groups, Trusted is part of a small group, and in fact, right now he's the entire small group. And we meet on Wednesday mornings. I'd love to find at least one or two other people to join us. We had another person, but that person had a child, and so is raising a new baby. But if anybody wants to join us, let me know. We meet Wednesday mornings at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. But it's not for non-believers, and so we were going through the book of Job, but currently we've just been kind of hanging out and keeping each other accountable, talking about theological concepts, but we don't just ask questions about this versus that. And hey, did you see the new Star Trek trailer? Yeah, with cows, you only usually have one bull. Yeah, it's all you need, and you get the bull from someone else. You would not use a bull that you like, because what you would do is, let's say you had some male calves, right? And as they're raised, you get a couple that are just perfect specimens, right? And so, like, it's like, oh, these would be perfect to breed. Well, you don't breed them yourself because it would be related to your cows, right? That's not a good idea. So instead, what you would do is send that, depending on the size of your farm or your ranch. If you had a big old ranch, you might have groups of cows in different genetic pools, and so you could take that bull and move it to one of your other groups, and it'll be fine. But what you would generally do is sell those perfect specimen bulls to other ranches that are looking for a bull for stud. And then you would get your stud from them. Sometimes you would do a trade, or sometimes you would just sell and then buy when you need one. But yeah, you usually only need one active stud for a significant number of cows, and only need it for breeding. Yep. That's all the guys are good for, pretty much. I mean, let's be real, we're kind of lame. Otherwise, they're just or they're just wasting food. Shalom tonight. Shalom, shalom, Robert. Hope you are well. Street Preacher says, say to them, for the generations to come, any of your descendants is ceremonially unclean and yet comes near the sacred offering that the Israelites consecrate the Lord, that person must be cut off from their presence. I'm not quite sure what he means by cutting them off from the Lord's presence. Okay, you might have missed it when I actually was reading that part. But what that means is they are no longer welcome. You are persona non grata as far as the temple is concerned. And if it says cut off from the people, which there, sometimes that means you are kicked out of the camp of Israel, and you have to basically live in the harsh northern African desert on your own. You're gonna die, right? But if it says cut off from the Lord's presence, it means that you are no longer welcome in the temple. It doesn't mean you're not a Jew anymore. It just means that you can't practice any of the priestly duties. Just temporarily kicked out of the church. Yeah, it seems to be a permanent thing if you're removed from God's presence. So yeah, you'd want to be careful of that. Like in the Chosen was that Passover. If you're talking about, well, the Last Supper was a Passover Seder. So yes, it was Passover week was the week that Jesus was executed, and some people speculate that it was also Passover week that Jesus was born. So that like he was born and died on the same day. The branches of the salt water representing tears. You talk about all the symbolic stuff, yeah. And saying hi to Robert. And saying the salty trekker Jews nowadays don't even know which tribe they are from, unfortunately. Yes, the tribes have kind of, unfortunately, I get that there's a lot of intermixing and which is perfectly understandable. But the thing is that the Levites, Leviticus written specifically for them, the Levites were called to remain holy. Remember what that means. That means they're to remain separate. They were, and we even read, I remember it was yesterday or the day before, or, well, not yesterday, but last week or the week before. Remember, there's a commandment in there telling them that they are not even to marry outside of their tribe, right? So the Levites, the people of Leviticus, were specifically ordered to remain genetically separate from everyone else. And they obviously failed at that because they just kind of stopped trying after the temple was destroyed. I guess you heard about terrible news about Rob Reiner and his wife. Yes, and you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to get political for just a second since you mentioned it. I am absolutely disgusted with the President of the United States gleefully taking credit for the murder of Rob Reiner in an indirect sense. It was disgusting, it was vile, and I cannot believe that a sitting president did something that foul. And that's all I have to say about it. And on the other end, I don't believe on the other end, I don't bring a bottle as a gift, with the exception though, with the expectation they'll open and share. But they should. If you bring a bottle, they should open it and share. I'd imagine mental illness is a bitch. Oh, he's probably talking about Rob Reiner's son because Rob Reiner's son, who is being charged with the double murder, it sounds like in California, special circumstance on a murder enables you to go for the death penalty, and they are asking special circumstance, so they might want to go for the death penalty on this. But yeah, the Rob Reiner's son is accused. I don't know what the evidence is. So if he is guilty, they did say that he's had a history of drug abuse and mental illness. So that could be a part of it. It might not. We don't know the motive. I try not to speculate too much on that unless the police actually say, here's what the motive was. I'm not going to, you know, speculate on that. And chances are, if the evidence is overwhelming, and he did it, there probably won't even be a trial, right? It would just be he'll plead guilty and try to get a lighter sentence than death. So how do we go out and choke the chicken? And then didn't you have to choke the chicken first? No, we never choked the chicken. And I know the joke and everything, but it's funny because there is a method that some people would use where you would take the chicken by the head and you'd like swing it around in such a way and then catch it under your arm, and that would literally twist its neck like so much that it would just shatter their vertebrae in their neck, and they would die very quickly. It's not a painful way for the chicken to die. It's not, I would say, cruel, but it would be unbiblical because remember, the Bible specifically forbids eating strangled food. And the thing is that is one of the very few commandments that carries on to Christians, and most Christians don't think about that, but that's specifically in the book of Acts. You are not to eat strangled meats. Now, when you go to the grocery store and you buy some chicken or beef, you don't really know, the methodology that they use. Although generally speaking, if you ever look at a corporate farm and the way they kill their animals, they're not strangling them. So, yeah, you're pretty safe. And then asking you what do you mean about the mental illness? Yeah, I don't think he's talking about the strangulation of animals. I think he was talking about. Oh, you're saying no strangulation of animals for sacrifice or for food is forbidden by Scripture. I think you mean strangulation, or no. I think there should be a comma there, like no strangulation of animals for sacrifice or for food is forbidden. Yes, that is true. And as far as the mental illness, I think he's talking about Rob Reiner's kid. Like with horses, you get a few really good studs. Exactly. And that's people. The problem is like words like stud, of course, has its connotation among the human population. But the funny thing is, it was actually originally a derogatory term for a guy that was basically acting like an animal. But it then became a badge of honor, so to speak, where oh yeah, and then you got into the double standard thing. Why is it the men that sleep around are studs and women that sleep around are whores? Well, technically, if you're a stud, you're a whore. So and in fact, it's kind of worse because you're just the only thing of value that you have is your sperm. I recommend watching Clarkson's Farm. He buys a bull. Okay. Wow. So that's exile. Yes. So some judge gave him $4 million bond. California. Go figure. Well, that may be what the California statutes recommend. I don't know. And it also depends. Do they think he's a flight risk? If they don't think he's a flight risk, then just posting a $4 million bond would be standard procedure. I think you die when the neck breaks. Well, not necessarily, and not well, and at least not instantly. But then again, like even when you decapitate an animal or a person, for that matter, scientifically, you're still alive for a very brief amount of time. Like if they say like if you were executed by guillotine, which by the way, the last person executed by guillotine happened the same year that Star Wars came out, which is kind of weird. But if you were executed by guillotine, then once your neck was severed, you would still be conscious of what's going on around you for a brief period of time, which is really scary to think about. In Game of Thrones, the gang destroys a church and kills everyone, and the guy goes to avenge them. I don't know that, but okay. And someone wants to hang them, but says it's too easy for them. Someone with a lollipop and tricycle versus someone with a plugger. I don't know what a plugger is. I agree with you about the post Trump made about bad South Checker. I really regret for voting for him. Yeah, I was absolutely. I mean, look, I understand if you like his policies or whatever, that's fine. But anybody that wants to defend that post that he made, I'm sorry. There is no defending that. It is the most disgusting, vulgar thing I've ever seen a sitting president ever say. And and the thing is, it's like he's not going to apologize for it. He's, if somebody asks him about it, he just says, "You're a bad reporter." He won't. Oh, yeah. Treston's taking off. All right, buddy. I'll see you next week. I meant plunger. Okay. So, person with a lollipop and tricycle versus someone with a plunger. Well, lollipop is a non-factor. I don't think that you're going to be able to defeat anybody in any meaningful way with a lollipop. But the tricycle gives you some added mobility and the possible ability to run somebody down. However, if you're talking about a tricycle that a little child would have, then that's very difficult if you're an adult. So I would say it depends on the type of tricycle. If it's a kid's tricycle, then I would give it to the plunger dude. If it's an adult tricycle, like a recumbent, like I have a trike that's actually, like it's a recumbent tricycle type thing, and it's pretty cool. And so something like that, yeah, all of a sudden you have massive speed. And you could put the lollipop in your hand, I guess, and stab the guy as you ride past him super fast. So then there you go. All right, so with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you guys for joining me. Sorry about being a little bit late. And yeah, I have an idea for I might start doing these live streams in the morning. I know some of you will hate that, but I'm still I got to figure something out so I can do it more often and more regular. But in the meantime, you guys take care and good night.